Cholesterol is a fat made by your liver, and your liver produces exactly as much as your body needs. If your body needs more, your liver makes more. If it needs less, it makes less. Several books by doctors and health professionals from all over the world, all saying the same thing: cholesterol does not cause heart disease. Dr. Kendrick even says he's still waiting for the evidence. There's no proof, folks. Isn't that incredible? Let's talk about the two main types of cholesterol, HDL and LDL. HDL, or high-density lipoprotein, is often called the good cholesterol because it carries excess cholesterol back to the liver. LDL, or low-density lipoprotein, is labeled the bad cholesterol, but it's not actually bad. LDL is the repairer and rebuilder of the body. When there's damage in your arteries, LDL is there to fix it. Now, why is it called bad? Well, LDL is found at sites of arterial damage because it's doing its job repairing and rebuilding. It also delivers cholesterol to the brain, which loves cholesterol because it's the fattiest organ in the body and needs a lot of fuel. So, what's really causing heart disease? It's not cholesterol. It's the damage to the arterial walls from all the environmental toxins we're exposed to. Things like chemicals in our laundry detergent, toothpaste, shampoo, and even our food. These toxins damage the endothelial cells lining our arteries. And guess what? When you have a high-carb diet, the excess glucose in your blood can become sticky and stick to your artery walls, narrowing them. If a sticky glucose protein molecule gets dislodged, it can cause a stroke or heart attack. It's not just one thing causing heart disease. It's a bit of this and a bit of that. Think about it this way. Saying cholesterol causes heart disease is like saying fire trucks cause fires because they're always at the scene. The real question is, why is there a buildup in the artery in the first place? Many people are put on cholesterol-lowering medications like statins, but these have side effects like dementia, Alzheimer's, memory loss, muscle wasting, and even breast cancer. The liver uses the same pathway to make cholesterol and coenzyme Q10, which protects your heart. When you block this pathway with statins, you're also blocking your heart's protective enzyme. I've heard countless stories of people whose mental health improved after stopping their cholesterol medication. We have to realize that the body doesn't make anything bad, it's all about balance. So, what should we do? Get rid of the chemicals in our lives, switch to a plant-based diet, exercise, and drink more water. Trust me, your body has an amazing ability to heal itself when you give it the right tools. Cholesterol isn't the enemy. Let's focus on real, natural ways to support our health.
And what are we told is the number one cause of heart disease? Cholesterol. So I think it's a good place to start. What's cholesterol? Cholesterol is a fat that is made by the liver, and the liver makes as much cholesterol as the body needs. So if the body needs a lot of cholesterol, the liver will make a lot of cholesterol. If the body doesn't need much cholesterol, it won't make much cholesterol. I have a book in my library at home, it's by Dr. Malcolm Kendrick. He's a British cardiovascular surgeon, and he's written a book called The Great Cholesterol Con. Got that? The Great Cholesterol Con. And he says in his book, for the first time, normal levels of a normal vital body substance is being called a disease. I have 5 books in my library at home. One's called The Great Cholesterol Con, by Dr. Malcolm Kendrick. Now, at the end of this meeting, I'm going to clear the board and I'm going to write all those books up on the board so that you'll have that resource. One's called The Great Cholesterol Deception by Dr. Peter Dingle. One's called The Great Cholesterol Lie by Dr. Dwight Lundell, another cardiovascular surgeon. One's called The Great Cholesterol Myth by Johnny Bowden, who's basically an exercise guru. Another book is called The Great Cholesterol Hoax. They're running out of words. And in her book, Put Your Heart in Your Mouth, Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride, she also looks at the same issue in detail. These are doctors and health professionals from all over the world, all saying the same thing. What are they saying? Cholesterol does not cause heart disease. Dr. Malcolm Kendrick said, "I'm still waiting for the evidence. There is no proof." Isn't that incredible? Now, do you remember we looked at the two different ways of healing or supposed healing? We look at God's way, which requires faith, which works with a body that was created to heal, and it leads to life. Then we looked at the other process of so-called healing. It's based on fear. There's also a lot of lies and deception around it. And because they claim the body evolved and it wasn't created, it cannot heal, so it needs drugs. And did you know that the third killer in the world today is medicine? And this is not just medical mistakes. It's also prescribed. And I remember seeing the news one night, and there were these two girls crying. They said, our boyfriends, they agreed to take this medical drug, and they're blown up like balloons, and they're in ICU, and they're not expected to live, and they were fit, strong young men, and they were only in their late 20s. They did it because they were going to get some money for it. I thought, what? And then a pharmaceutical representative came on and was being interviewed. What's going on, these men? And he said, well, it didn't do this on the rats. I don't know about you, but I am not interested in being experimented on. I looked at the newspaper the next day, nothing. It was never on the news again, nothing. Ugh, how often does that happen? I'm so glad that God gave me a body that can heal itself. He gave me a mind that can consider, that can analyse, and that can make choices about what I do to my body. And a lot of people have been deceived, and a lot of people are ignorant about these basic ways of healing. And in the book of Acts in the Bible, chapter 17, verse 30, it says that God winks at our ignorance. Did you hear that? God winks at our ignorance, and so should we. Many people are sick because they did not realise it. And that's why I say to mothers, don't beat yourself up over this. You vaccinated your child because you wanted the best for your child. Isn't that true? You didn't realise. But now you know. There's no need to apologise to your child. You did the best. You just say, I didn't know. But now I know. That's why we should investigate. So now I'm going to tell you the truth on cholesterol. The liver makes cholesterol. And 80% of the cholesterol that the liver makes, it makes from glucose. And 20% of the cholesterol that the body makes, it makes from fat. Now, this one piece of information alone tells you it's not the butter on the bread, it's the bread under the butter. The wrong guy's been shot. Fat's been shot because of who it hangs around with. There are two main types of cholesterol that the liver makes. One is called high-density lipoprotein, and high-density lipoprotein is called the good guy, or the good cholesterol. Why is it called the good cholesterol? Because it carries excess cholesterol back to the liver. And so that's why it's called the good cholesterol. And the other main type of cholesterol is LDL. LDL, low-density lipoprotein, and it's called the bad cholesterol. Yeah?
Right.
But the body doesn't make anything bad. It doesn't make anything bad. So why is it called the bad cholesterol? Well, first of all, let me show you what its role is in the body. LDL cholesterol is the repairer and the rebuilder. So whenever there's repair or rebuilding to be done, where will you find LDL? You'll find it there. But LDL does something else. It delivers cholesterol to the brain, and the brain loves cholesterol. Because the brain is the fattiest organ in the body. And looking at fuel, glucose runs at 4 calories per gram. Whereas fat, it burns at 9 calories per gram. And we're going to look at this a little bit more tonight when we look at weight loss. And isn't this why most people say if you want to lose weight, stop the fat? Because it's going to give you more than twice the units, or twice the calories, yeah? But what's a calorie? It's a unit of energy. So if you want a high energy food, what do you eat? Fat. Now you can see why the brain loves fat, because it consumes 15 times the fuel of any other cell. And so it loves this high energy fuel. So let's look at the blood vessel and look at how these cholesterols work in the blood. Because of its high density, HDL is always floating in the middle. Because of its low density, LDL, you'll find it on the edge. In her book, Who Put Your Heart in Your Mouth, Dr. Natasha Campbell-McBride, she spends 4 chapters looking at all the environmental poisons that come into the blood and start breaking down the little endothelium cells that line the arteries. And we're exposed to so many chemicals today. It is estimated we're confronted with 100,000 more chemicals every year. Yeah. In our laundry detergent, in our toothpaste, in our shampoo, our skin cream, on our clothes, what our clothes are made out of, in our food. It's just everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. And these chemicals come into the blood, and those little endothelium cells that line the arteries, it damages them, damage. I used to say there were 4,000 chemicals in a cigarette. My sister recently, who's a scientist, she said to me, Barbara, there's 7,000 chemicals in a cigarette. Yeah. I think even medicine acknowledges that smoking is a contributing factor to heart disease. So what's happening, students? And then mercury fillings in the mouth, those heavy metals. Mercury is found in fish, it's found in your mercury fillings in the mouth, it's found in vaccines, especially the flu vaccine. Damage, more damage. Who's going to plug up the hole, students? LDL. It's there on the edge, just waiting to do its job. Plugs up the hole. Whenever damage has been sustained by the cell, you've then got scar tissue. Isn't that right? I'm sure we've all got scars somewhere. My husband used to be a wild biker. He's got all the scars. all the crashes he had. Scars. They're not as supple, are they? So can you see the walls of the artery are getting stiffer? They're getting more built up. The person doesn't realise that sweet-smelling washing detergent, those chemicals are coming in, and little by little. Now, what I'm mentioning, it's almost like dripping tap on a stone. It's just a little bit here and a little bit there and a little bit there, and it's all adding up, all adding up. We've got something else happening too. All through the blood, there are protein molecules. And when someone is on a high carbohydrate diet, dumping high glucose, there's a lot of glucose in the blood. And it connects with these protein molecules. This happens with the excess glucose, and they become sticky. And they start sticking on the walls of the artery. And say we've got an area here that's quite narrow, and we've got one of these sticky glucose protein molecules dislodges, moves down here, gets stuck. If that's in the carotid artery, there's your stroke. That's the number one cause of a stroke. If it happens in the heart muscle, there's your cardiac arrest, there's your heart attack. Can you see it's not just one thing? It's a bit of this, a bit of that, a bit of this, a bit of that. It's a whole lot of things. To say that cholesterol causes heart disease is like saying the fire trucks cause the fire. Well, they must cause the fire. Have you noticed they're always there? It's like saying the ambulances are causing the accidents. Well, they must. They're the one common denominator. See, what we should ever be asking is why. Why is there build-up in the artery? So when I worked in the operating theatre, we did a bypass one day. What's a bypass? You know what they do? They saw the chest wall open. They have clamps and pull it open. They cut out an artery from behind the knee and seal it off, cut out the blocked up artery and then sew in the artery from down on the leg. But the heart pumps and that blood is strong. So the tissue that artery is made in is a bit stronger than the tissue made down here. So it's actually not going to last very long. That's why one of Michael's old bikie mates rang me up and said, "Hey Barb," his name's Jim, "doctor says I should have a bypass because I've got 2 arteries that are 80% blocked in my heart." I said, "Oh yeah?" He said, "Your husband tells me you could help me." I said, "Quite possibly." I said, "Well, what have I got to do?" I said, "Jim, you've got to stop your alcohol. You've got to stop smoking. You've got to stop the coffee. You've got to go on a plant-based diet. Come to Misty Mountain. We'll show you how. Get your exercising. Start drinking more water." He said, "Oh, Barb, that's a bit extreme." I tell you what I think's extreme. Sawing the chest open. Cutting it open. We've forgotten what's extreme. He said, "But Barb, the specialist's a really nice guy." I said, "Well, so he should be, but Jim, what's that got to do with your heart condition?" Jim went and had the bypass. He thought what I suggested was a bit extreme. His quality of life greatly diminished. No one told him he really should stop the alcohol or the cigarettes or the heavy meat diet. I think he lived another 5 years. He died before he even reached 70. You know, I used to think 40 was old when I was 20. I used to think 60 was old when I was 40. Well, now that I'm nearing 70, I think 40 is pretty young. It's all relative, isn't it? What's it going to take? Number one killer in the world today is heart disease. So are the authorities doing anything to do about this? Yes. Unfortunately, there's no vaccine for it, they think. Well, there never will be a vaccine for it. So what are they doing? Well, number one, from about the 1980s, 70s, 80s, they put everyone on a fat-free diet, yeah, fat-free, low-fat, told everyone to stop eating butter and start eating margarine. Has that reduced heart disease? Not at all. Not at all. So we've got to think of something else. Cholesterol-lowering medication. We'll put everyone over the age of 50 on cholesterol-lowering meds. Has that helped? Not at all. In fact, if anything, what it has done, it has increased dementia and Alzheimer's. In Australia, 1,700 new cases of Alzheimer's is being diagnosed every week. I haven't read about any case of Alzheimer's in the Bible, have you? And yet some of those people, they lived to lower 800 years age and their mind was clear. We've got the same minds, we've got the same bodies. So why is this happening? What is cholesterol-lowering medication? The statin drugs are the cholesterol-lowering medication. Lipitor, Crestor, they're probably the 2 most common. I've got a book in my library at home called Lipitor, Thief of Memory. And it's written by a doctor and he's also an astronaut. I think he was late 40s at this stage. He went to the doctor to have his yearly checkup. The doctor said, your cholesterol levels are a bit high. What were his cholesterol levels? His cholesterol levels were about 220. So the doctor said, I want to put you on some cholesterol-lowering medication. Why did he agree to go on it? He agreed to go on it because of this. No one wants to die, do they? 2 weeks later, his wife found him out in the garden. He didn't know who she was. He didn't know who he was. He didn't know where he was. This is a smart guy, astronaut, doctor. He stopped the Lipitor, and after a couple of weeks, his mind was clear again. A year later, or maybe 10 months later now, he goes to the doctor to have his yearly test. The doctor said, cholesterol levels are still a bit high. I want to put you on that drug again. And he said, no way. He said, I nearly went mad on that drug. The doctor said, this is very rare. I'll put you on half dose. He said, okay. 2 weeks later, his wife found him out in the garden. He didn't know who she was, didn't know where he was. Same scenario. So he stopped it immediately. He decided to put his story up on Google. And when they saw it, they said, what a story. Can we put it out there? Within hours, thousands of hits of people that said the same thing happened to me. You see, what the cholesterol-lowering medication does, it blocks the pathway in the liver that the liver uses to make cholesterol. But the same pathway that the liver uses to make cholesterol, it uses to make coenzyme Q10. And what's coenzyme Q10? That's your heart protective enzyme. So anyone who goes on the statin drugs has now lost their heart protective enzyme. Does that mean that someone who goes on cholesterol-lowering medication is actually more susceptible to heart disease? What are the side effects of a cholesterol-lowering medication? Lipitor, Crestor, and all the statin drugs. Dementia, Alzheimer's, memory loss, muscle wasting, and they've just added another one, and that's breast cancer, because our sex hormones are made from cholesterol. We had a pharmacist do our program, and she said, I'm really annoyed. She said, I'm a pharmacist. Drugs are my profession. I'm not against drugs, but she said recently a circular went out that anyone with a cholesterol level below 190 or above 190 had to go on cholesterol-lowering medication. She said, this is just a money-making scheme. Now, this is what the pharmacist is telling me. She said, because if someone's on an antibiotic, how long are they on for? A week. She said, if they're put on cholesterol-lowering medication, how long are they told they're on it for? Life. And when I was in New Zealand, this is a few years ago now, I was giving health lectures. One evening I gave a presentation on heart health. I told about the dangers of cholesterol-lowering medication. Tuesday night. Thursday night, an elderly gentleman and his wife came up to me and he said, I have a story for you. He said, we came to your lecture on Tuesday night. He said, my wife's been on Lipitor for 5 years. He said, she's losing her mind, she's got dementia, she's getting very difficult to handle. She leaves the iron on. She wanders in the street in the middle of the night. And we made the very difficult decision to put her into an aged care facility. We heard your lecture. We stopped immediately the Lipitor. He said, it's only 2 days, but I can see my wife's getting her mind back. Wow. He had tears in his eyes, and so did she. They said, thank you. How many people in aged care facilities have dementia because of their cholesterol-lowering medication? And that's why at the end of this meeting I'm going to write up all the names of those books. These are researchers, these are scientists, these are cardiovascular surgeons who are blowing the whistle that cholesterol does not cause heart disease. So what causes heart disease? It's damage to the arterial walls. And that's another reason why we've got to get the chemicals out of our life, out of our home. Can you turn this around? You can. We live in an amazing body with an inbuilt ability to heal itself. So the first step is abstain. You got to stop the chemicals. Don't do what one lady did. She said, Barbara, thank you so much for the program. I went home, I cleaned out all my cupboards and I gave it all to the poor people next door. My response is, poor people. I know it's hard, but you're going to save money when all you have to have in your laundry cupboard is sodium bicarbonate and white vinegar. The money you save, you can get some nice essential oils. Young Living and doTERRA are probably two of the better. They're expensive, but they're very concentrated. You only need a drop. And that gives a nice scent. So cholesterol-lowering medication has made no difference regarding heart disease, but it has raised memory loss, dementia and Alzheimer's. If you've been on cholesterol-lowering medication for 5 years, 10 years, and you stop immediately, there will be a side effect. Your memory will return. That's it. There is no danger of stopping that immediately. If you're on cortisone or prednisone, you cannot stop that. That has to be eased off very slowly. But regarding the cholesterol-lowering medication, that can be ceased immediately. So what else have they done? Number 2, lowered the levels. What do I mean by that? It was about 8 years ago now, at the health retreat in Alabama. There was a couple there. The lady was 69 and she looked great. She looked about 50. She was very fit. She was slim. She really looked after her body. She said, I'm a nutritionist. I have my own private practice and I also work with a doctor half the week. She said, I have the advantage of being schooled 40 years ago in the university. She said 40 years ago in the university, we were told that a cholesterol level of 300 was perfectly fine. So 220 was perfectly fine. And if you go under 150, the brain's not going to work well because the brain needs the fat. In fact, under 150 can be actually a bit dangerous. So if someone, well, here was another one. I had a young girl say to me, Barbara, I'm 30, I had my cholesterol levels done, they're 190. The doctor said I have to go on cholesterol-lowering medication, and she's 30. I have never had a cholesterol test. I don't know what my cholesterol levels are. I'm not really interested to know. Everything works. Everything works. I wanted to show you that the body doesn't make anything bad. That the LDL is not an enemy. It's just doing its job. And the body runs according to precision balance. And the way to keep the balance, the way to sustain me is through these basic laws of health. And we have found when these basic laws of health are implemented, the body starts to restore balance.